Hello everyone, Poor Cynic here with Tab and Tyrant Reviews, and this is Plague Inc. by Endemic Creations. If you read the review, and as always, please go and read the review because, I put time, thought, and effort into those things. You'll know that I think this game is totally awesome. If you played the old browser game Pandemic 2, and you'll sort of know how this game works. You create a disease, guide its evolution, and attempt to wipe out all human life on the planet. If the humans cure your disease, you lose. If everybody dies, you win. Because destroying the world is fun. Or something like that. Anyway, let's go over some of the things here on the screen. At the top corner, you can see the little gear icon. This is your settings. You can turn off and on sound, music, auto-pausing the game, and extra pop-ups and whatnot. And there's more settings. You can change the language. You can have high-res graphics and go to Facebook. If you're into that sort of thing. Along the top here, you can see these little sort of bookmark icons. These are expansion packs. There's a Necrovirus, that's the zombie one. There's the Nurex Worm expansion pack. I have both of those. I'm actually planning to show those off in separate videos. I'm going to do a sort of Poor Cynic plays for those. The YouTube one, YouTube bookmark, takes you to the Plague Inc. cinematic trailer. I don't know why the creators felt the need to bookmark that, since you've already purchased the game, you don't really need a trailer, but, whatever. There's information, just tells you a little bit about the game. It's sort of like the credits, tells you the version, who made it. And then, there's play, how to play, and high scores. Pretty basic, not a lot to change or to alter. We're going to go right into play. This is something new. At the bottom they've added speedrun. I guess there are also going to be more options coming soon. This is very much a game that has a lot of sort of content that comes later, which I do, sort of appreciate it because there's already a lot in the base game, but it's nice to have expansions. We're just going to jump right in a new game. Here are the various basic plague types. All these can be unlocked either through in-app purchases if you're impatient, or just by playing the game if you are patient and good. I unlocked all these through play. No, seriously, I did. I didn't pay for any of these. I'm just that good. No, it's actually not too difficult to unlock all these. Some of the modes are more challenging than others. We're just going to go with basic bacteria for this playthrough, or for this video. I'm not going to make it a full playthrough, I don't think. Let's put it on normal. And now you can name the plague. As I mentioned in the reviews, one of the disappointing sort of minor things in this game is you are limited to 9 characters to name your disease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that is the limit. That amount of... that's 9, right? I did not miscount. Yeah, that's 9. So it's like you can have really creative sort of long plague names. And that does sort of irk me because, I like, in Pandemic 2, one of the things I liked was I could sort of name them silly things, like Boogie Woogie Flu, Synekia, and we'll jump into the game. Oh yeah, one more thing, there's modifying the genetic code. Customize your plague by modifying its genetic code. These are sort of bonuses you can unlock by winning the game, basically. And each little section has 5 options to choose from. There's DNA genes. These genes give you more DNA in different ways. There's like you can start out with more DNA. You get bonus DNA by popping cure bubbles, or red bubbles, or orange bubbles, or bubbles are automatically popped. I'm just going to go with the orange one. And then there's mutation genes. These genes let you tweak how your plague mutates. I like just your plague is harder to cure, but there's also other various things. There's travel genes. These genes give your plague a boost when spreading, closing land borders, and sea and air. Let's go with sea. I usually like either sea or air. Sea because some countries don't actually have an airport, like Madagascar. And if you played Pandemic 2, you know what a pain Madagascar can be. Environment genes, where do you want a bonus? Rural, humid, urban. We'll just stick with... Actually, let's go with rural. We're going to start in the country for this one. And then evolution genes. Bonus DNA when devolving. Normally, it actually costs you DNA to devolve. This actually gives you a little bonus. And DNA is used to buy sort of, symptoms and modes of transmission and all the sort of good stuff that makes a disease really nasty. Cost to devolve don't increase, symptom cost don't increase, but easier to cure. We're just going to stick with ionized helix. Let's start her up. And here we are. Welcome to Plague Inc. You are a new bacteria. To win, you must evolve and spread across the world, wiping out all humans in the ultimate plague. Such the country your plague will start in. This is another sort of minor nitpick I have. You can't see what some of these countries are before you sort of click on them. And each country has its own sort of modifiers to it. Are they wealthy? Are they urban? Are they rural? Are they hot or cold? And you don't really get to know this unless you've sort of played a lot of the game. And that is kind of annoying. But let's start out in... Let's start out in Central America. Synekia begins in Central America. Synekia has infected its first human weak and used to hot temperatures and must evolve using DNA points to infect more people. Let's go over some of the things on the screen here. There's a news ticker at the top. There's the date at the top here. You can also adjust where you want it paused or normal speed or fast speed. Just put it paused right now because I want to explain some things on screen. The DNA counter that shows how much DNA you have to spend. You get more DNA by popping bubbles and by infecting people. Unless you are, I believe, a parasite. Parasites do not get bonus DNA for infecting people. That's one of their drawbacks. But the plus side of parasites is they're harder to detect. Which means you can remain subtle for longer, you can infect more people before the world catches on and starts making a cure. Each disease, back on that screen, had its own, benefits and drawbacks. Like bioweapon, it's automatically lethal, which sounds cool, but it means you have to really rank up the infectivity or else it'll burn itself out and kill off all its hosts before you get a chance to infect the world, which is a bit of a pain. Disease. This shows basic stats about the disease so far. There's infectivity, there's severity, which sort of reflects how noticeable it is, and lethality, which obviously is how many people does it kill. Transmission. Transmission traits reflect sort of how easily your DNA spreads. Each has its own benefits. Birds, avian carriers increase infectivity, land transmission, and mutation. Mutation is sort of occasionally your disease will randomly evolve a new symptom, which may or may not be good for you. Sometimes it's nice to have a new symptom, other times it just ranks up the severity and makes it more easily noticeable or makes it lethal before you want it to be lethal. But there's also rodents and livestock and water and air and blood and insects. The typical disease vectors that everybody talks about. There's symptoms. I start out with 6 to choose from, but they all sort of branch off into different directions and become much more lethal. You have rash or cysts or anemia, and they all sort of increase infectivity and severity in different ways. And then abilities. These are sort of customizing, as it says, customize the strengths of your disease, which is disease resistance to climate, affecting the success of a cure, and all sorts of stuff. Whether you want it to resist cold or heat or drugs or bacterial resistance, bacteria has a special property that is you can make a shell to protect against all climates. It's the most hardy of the initial disease types. Or something like a virus, it more prone to random mutations, harder to control in that way. They all have their different things to adjust for. Like fungus, it's harder to spread. So you have to keep that into account. But yeah, we're going to move on. Next, we see the number of infected. We've infected 4 people so far. You can click on Central America. They have business as usual because my disease is not, causing the country to break down or lose its mind. See the number of healthy people, the number of infected people, and the number of dead people. Those numbers underneath the big blue circle. The amount of money they're putting towards medical research. Their borders are still open. Their port is still open. That's the icons sort of next to the blue circle up here, the big icons. And then once things start happening, they'll pop up in this black box with the white lines underneath the larger icons. We can go to info. You see Central America is a poor, rural group of countries, typically has a hot climate. So this is sort of telling you what transmission vectors will do particularly well in this country. And then we can go to, obviously next is the amount of dead people. The cure percentage, what percent, how close to completion the cure is. And then we'll go to the world. Cytic area has not been noticed. Then you can see how close the cure is. You can see the amount of healthy people in the world, the amount of affected people in the world, the amount of people who have died from your virus in the world. You can look at the progress of the cure, which it'll show, once you get that far, which countries or regions are key research contributors, which have and what research priority your disease is. If it's the single research priority, that basically it's going to be an all-out race to see who's going to win, you or humanity. And then there's basic data. You can see how the infection is spread, which countries you haven't yet gotten. The graph of the world showing healthy, infected, and dead. These graphs are nice. I'd like to see more. When it comes to strategy, I can be sort of an information hound. I just like to see more and more, like, what does the person on the street think of my disease? Do they really understand it, or are they totally terrified of it? But that's just me. Other people may disagree. Anyway, let's get to playing. Let's start time up again. You can see boats and planes moving around as they do. And if they turn red, if you see a red boat or a red plane, that means that there are diseased people, basically, or something disease vectors on the ship or plane that will transfer to another country. And orange bubbles pop up. That'll get you more DNA points. Got 8. Let's see if I can spend it on anything. It is a rural country, so it might be good to put some points into livestock here. Or gives the organism ability to spread through blood-to-blood contact. Let's go with blood. It spreads through the blood. You have successfully evolved Synekia. I'm going to mispronounce that, I feel. Probably should have picked a better name. Oh well. You have spent DNA points to evolve your disease, and more options have opened up. Get more points by popping DNA and biohazard bubbers and infecting people. Yeah, as you can see, I unlocked Blood 2. Infected bloody fluids able to pass through mucous membranes, increases infectivity, and especially in poor regions and mutation chances. So everything sort of has a next stage, as it were. You can see we're getting more and more infected. Moving up to 20 people already. The beginning of the game is always like this. It always starts off sort of slow. And then it sort of ramps up. And then one of the problems I noted in the review is that at the end, it slows down again. There's not as much to do because you sort of customize your disease to where you want. Everyone's been infected. It just sort of comes down to how fast is the cure going to be and how lethal your disease is. All right, I think we got enough to get some more stuff. I think I want to go for water so I can start getting on some ships. That's also why I picked Central America, because access to the Panama Canal, and those ships go everywhere. So it's a good sort of starting point to make sure you spread to a lot of places. Some countries are, like the United States, have the wealthy or the rich modifier. This means they're harder to infect. Synekia infects hundreds. Synekia has infected hundreds of people in South America. Increasing chance of infecting a person will affect a healthy person. Keep evolving your disease. Anyway, yeah, wealthy countries have class 1 and 2 antibiotics, and you sort of overcome this with drug resistance. Otherwise, it spreads a lot more slowly in places like the United States or the UK or most of Europe. All right, things are picking up. Let's give ourselves a symptom. Let's see here. I think I might want to go with nausea. Well, they each have their own sort of chance of infectivity and severity, and they have their own flavor text. Nausea. Irritated stomach lining leads to discomfort. Slight chance of infection when kissing. Lovely. Yeah, we'll go with that. And we've opened up vomiting. The expulsion of infected material through projectile vomiting increases the risk of infection. It is a little obvious, though. Unless you live in a place with a lot of pubs. Then it just, it's part of the day-to-day. Yeah. Stick with that right now. Let's see if we can get some more DNA points. Kind of want to get either blood 2 or water 2. In news, sometimes it'll be related to the progress of your disease. Sometimes it'll just be little fun factoids. And occasionally you'll also get news pop-ups like this. Severe storms strike New Guinea. Severe storms strike heavily populated area in New Guinea. RMS analysts warn of crop and property damage. Like storms and disasters will sometimes affect the way your disease spreads. Like if there's flooding, it means like water-based diseases will probably have a chance of doing better. It also adds to the death count, even though it really shouldn't, because it's not your disease that killed them. And that's another one of the sort of problems I have with this game, is the population is static. It doesn't change. The amount of infected doesn't really go down unless, people are dying or being cured. Whereas in something like Pandemic 2, it would sort of adjust as people became healthier. All right, we've infected thousands of people now. Hopefully we can start spreading out the country soon before somebody notices. Want to see those little red ships? Show me those little red ships. Goldman Stanley Bank crisis. The investment bank reported catastrophic losses today due to technical error in their random number generator. Ripped from the headlines. Though really, in reality, it wouldn't be a random number generator. It would be colossal fraud. But that's just me being a little biased. Maybe. All right, let's get water too. Pathogen able to survive in chemically treated water. Let's start spreading on some ships here, people. You can see, though, I haven't even infected 1%. I've only infected 1% of Central America's population. Little red ships. Excellent. We're spreading. We've got in Argentina. And it looks like we're going to be making our way around the world. The red bubbles indicate when you've infected a new country. Wow, I'm going to get a lot of red bubbles here. Yeah. And so the orange bubbles are just sort of the process of evolution. And then when they come up later, cure bubbles reflect progress countries are making towards an actual cure. Which, you want to pop those right away. Nice. That was a good move I made. That was something that can happen. It will randomly generate a mutation, in this case cysts. I actually think I might keep this. If I choose to devolve it, though, I will get 4 DNA points refunded. Cysts gives me access to hypersensitivity, which makes rich regions more vulnerable. Increases the likelihood of allergic reactions, which can distract the immune system. Also creates abscesses, which obviously people are going to notice because it's pockets of infected flesh. But since we're moving out into more wealthy countries, let's get some drug resistance up in here. And then we'll also do bacterial resilience to sort of protect against the new climates our disease is encountering. Oh yeah, it's really taken off in Central America now. Report says Japan must go nuclear. Maybe not after the floods. More infectious than TB. Synekia has infected more people in the world than tuberculosis. It is a very infectious disease. Awesome. You can see sort of those red speckles are showing up in more countries. You got the United States, you got Canada, you got France and UK. A lot of wealthy countries. Oh, they finally noticed me. New minor disease spreading. In a normal checkup, a doctor in Central America has found a new disease which has been named Synekia. It appears to be mostly harmless but must be investigated further. Other countries are also reporting this disease. I would have liked to have spread to more countries before they noticed me, because once they've noticed me, it means they'll start working on a cure, especially if I've infected everyone in the population, as I have in Central America now. So that's a problem. And that's sort of the essence of gameplay, is maintaining a balance between infectiousness, severity, and lethality, and trying to be as subtle as possible in the beginning, and then as violent and destructive as possible near the end. Alright, we're spreading more countries, we're getting more bubbles. This is good, this is good. New dry winds in arid countries. The latest research shows that strong dry winds are sweeping through arid countries due to global warming. Alright, this would be sort of a way of the game hinting at me that, hey, you might want to try using diseases with sort of air-based dispersal methods. That diseases that do better in arid countries, or disease that would do better with sort of spreading through the air, are really going to be successful at this point. And sometimes you'll also have the opposite happen. Like maybe a development will occur that will make spreading over boats less effective unless you evolve to a certain point, or something similar. Or maybe scientists will understand a certain symptom, which will mean treating a disease that has that symptom will become easier. All right. Let's get some vomiting up in here. I've unlocked 2 more symptoms. Pulmonary edema, potentially fatal heart abnormality, causes breakdown of respiratory system, relieving pathogen into air. Starting to get some lethality going now. And diarrhea, pathogen active in digestive tract, causing infection through feces and potentially lethal dehydration. Poor countries very vulnerable. Let's actually get hypersensitivity, because I want to start moving through these rich countries I am newly infecting. Let's take a look at, I'll pop that bubble in a second, infection spread summary. I have infected a fair chunk of the countries in the world, but you can see there's still a ways to go. Now we're getting tons of DNA. Alright, let's amp up the blood. And that was expensive, so I can't do anything else. More infectious than HIV. Synekia has infected more people in the world than HIV. It is an extremely infectious disease. That's what I like to hear. Oh man, look at China. It's really taken off in China. Yeah, China is an urban country, typically has a balanced climate. China is is an urban country, but it's not a wealthy country, which means it's also a very good place to start out in. Starting out in a wealthy country can be problematic because of those sort of way drugs sort of stop the spread of your disease. They slow it down. China starts work on cure. China is the first to instruct doctors to begin research into a cure for Synekia. Without greater funding, it is expected to take a long time. All right, now the race is on. You can see there was a red plane going to Saudi Arabia there. But the work on the cure has begun, which means it's going to be a race between me and humanity to see who's going to come out on top here. I've got a lot of DNA to spend, so let's do this thing. You can see I've got drug resistance 2. Pathogen develops resistance to class 3 and 4 antibiotics. Increase effectiveness in wealthy countries. I also have genetic hardening, which means the pathogen becomes harder to analyze in the lab and decreases future research speed. Let's get drug resistance and genetic hardening. Can I get any symptoms? I can get abscesses. Insomnia. Inability to sleep makes people irritable and less productive. That might be good because I believe that affects sort of progress on the cure. You know, the less productive part. Let's give it a shot. So now it's making them nauseous. It's making them tired. Oh yeah, and they're getting lumps of infected tissue popping out of their skin. So it's Synekia. It's a lovely disease. Oh, Synekia has mutated and developed a diarrhea symptom without using DNA points. Do I want it to have diarrhea already? I don't know. It does add lethality, which I'm not... But it's only a little bit of lethality, so it might actually be good. Plus, it helps the spread of infection. And it's going to affect poor countries, which is important. I think I'll hang on to it. And I'll add... paranoia, maybe? Irrational delusions and mental symptoms. Victims' distrust of others makes them unlikely to seek treatment or cooperate with others. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So now we got diarrhea and paranoia are symptoms of the disease. And the first death has been recorded in Colombia. See, you're going to start to see the death counter go up now. More infectious than the common cold. Synekia has infected more people in the world than the common cold is the ultimate infectious disease. Oh my god. Alright, we got some more DNA. Let's spend it. Some of the new things I've unlocked. Seizures. Random blackouts and fits reduce the patient's ability to function independently. Can be fatal. And dysentery. If you played Oregon Trail, you know all about dysentery. Complete breakdown in the digestive system causes infected sewage, dehydration, starvation, and death. It is a nasty thing. But there's also genetic reshuffle, pathogen DNA strands reassemble, more work needed to develop a cure, and more genetic hardening. Let's go with genetic hardening 2. And we'll get bacterial resilience too as well. So yeah, that's Plague Inc. in a nutshell. It's a sort of very nice, basic strategy game. Our threat level increased. RMS raised the threat level for Synekia due to extremely rapid evolution caused by DNA instability. Anyway, yeah, it's very fun. It requires a lot of strategic thought, but it's not overly complex, so people who aren't necessarily into strategy games will probably enjoy this more. They'll be able to get more out of it. Synekia placed on watch list. Synekia has been placed on the RMS watch list. Already dangerous. Governments were warned it could become unstoppable. I certainly hope so. But, yeah, it's very entertaining. If you play Pandemic 2, you sort of understand, but there's a lot more depth than there was in Pandemic 2. Shut down everything. Indonesia has become the first country to try and limit the spread of Synekia by limiting access into and out of the country. Time will tell if this will work. But yeah, it's pretty darn fun. It's a little dark in its sensibilities because you are destroying the world through horrible diseases. But if you're okay with that, if you can sort of cope with the idea of I'm being a horrible, horrible person and, murdering people indirectly through disease, even though they're electronic people, you probably will enjoy this. I know I certainly do. All right, now we're going to get the cure bubbles. Yep, see the blue plane. Blue cure bubbles appear when a research team from Russia finds something, pop them, destroy the research, and stop the cure speeding up. You do that, and that'll sort of slow the progress on the cure. But yeah, that is Plague Inc. It is a premium game. I believe it costs about $1 or maybe $2 to start out with. In-app purchases, it does have some, but everything you can unlock through in-app purchases can also be unlocked just through gameplay. Basically, from the way I understand it, if you beat the game, if you beat all the diseases on the hardest difficulty level, basically you unlock everything, including cheats and sort of all sorts of goodies. And the DLC diseases as well. I believe you unlock those. I paid for those because I'm not good enough to sort of beat the game on the highest difficulty level. But, yeah. It's darn fun, is what it is. And I strongly recommend it to anybody who has sort of an interest in this kind of strategy game or who's played Pandemic 2 and remembers it fondly and wants a sort of substitute on the iOS. It's darn fun. Alright, killed more than the Black Death. Even though it is sort of rather gloomy. But yeah, pick it up as soon as you can. You will not regret it. It is an enjoyable, if somewhat grim experience. I'm Poor Cynic with Tab on Tyrant Reviews. Ta-ta and farewell. For more reviews, both written and recorded, go to www.tablettyrant.com. That's www.tablettyrant.com.